Welcome to At the Movies. I'm Gus Mollasis. I'm so psyched. I have such a great show tonight. I'm going to go to my opening with my old opening, but I have Sally Fernandez here. She's a renowned author, and her books are going to be made into movies. Come back in 30 seconds, and I'll tell you how.
What is it?
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Huh?
Welcome back to the show, At the Movies with Gus Mollasis. I'm so excited to have Sally Fernandez. I want to introduce her right away because I'm just in such awe of your number one. You're just a prolific writer.
Wow.
It's just fabulous to see you, my dear. How are you?
It's so great to be here, guys.
The last time I saw you were celebrating, I think, 19 birthdays for your other half. I would say better half. He's going to say you're the better half.
He better.
He better say that. He's your editor, and he's going to come out in the second half of the show. Joe Fernandez, you guys have made a team, and how many books have you actually written? Just to get a little background on.
6.
It's just 6.
Starting my 7th.
But the most recent book, the Beekeeper's Secret, is the second in a series.
Exactly.
And the first was Climatized.
Yes.
And I want you to tell me from the author's point of view what made you want to write, and where did the Max Ford is your heroine in the piece?
Yeah, she's interesting because I didn't start writing until about 10 years ago. I came out of corporate life.
Really? What part of corporate life did you?
I was in project management and technology.
Oh God!
So I wrote scintillating technical manuals.
You wrote boilerplate stuff.
Exactly.
My God, that's my background too. I just got the hell out of there in Ford Motor Company.
So now look at we're doing the creative side here.
Unbelievable. You just couldn't take it anymore.
Well, what happened is retired. We traveled and so forth, but we were living in Italy about 2008. Lead up to the presidential election, and what was in the media was just driving me insane.
What was in the media regarding anything in particular? Because every day you can find something in the media.
Well, leading up to the campaign with all that was going on with Obama and everything, and what was real and what wasn't real.
Okay.
So my husband, who is now my editor, as you mentioned,
Great.
he challenged me to stop ranting and put it on paper.
Oh my gosh. That's fabulous.
So I took up the challenge, ended up with 50 pages. He read it and said, kind of a bomb thrower, but take out the bombs, and it sounded like a novel.
So was that the etymology of Climatized?
That was actually the first book, which calls Brotherhood Beyond the Yard.
Oh, okay.
And so I ended up with 88. I went back to the keyboard, loved writing, loved the research. And ended up with 88,000 words in Brotherhood Beyond the Yard.
Oh wow! But that's not the Max Ford. That's a different protagonist.
No, but what happened? It was a different protagonist, but that led into the second and the third and the fourth, which became the Simon tetralogy.
Okay.
I had a group of guys at Harvard, and it was time to introduce a female. So in the second book, In Noble's Quest, Max entered the scene.
Oh, okay, that's
so
great.
So she had developed through the tetralogy.
Fabulous.
And concluded, and it was just time to give her a stage of her own. So I created the Max Ford thrillers, and now she's the lead character.
That is so neat that your husband Joe says, instead of complaining about like some of us do, we whine, and I'm writing a book about something similar to that. Just instead of going to a therapist or a priest or a rabbi or all three, I'm going to write. So Max Ford in Climatized, was that the jewel of it back then? Was the book Climatized? Did it just come to you all at once, or how did that come to be?
Well, the story is about climate change.
Right.
And I wanted to come up with a way to kind of separate the rhetoric from the science.
Sure.
And so through my research, the fictional aspect, and I kind of go after what Francis Bacon said, that the truth is hard to tell. Sometimes you need fiction to make it plausible.
That's my quote here, thank you. That's my favorite thing. I love this.
Isn't it great?
You have to tell, sometimes people won't believe the truth without a little bit of fiction.
Exactly. So what I write in all my style is to simply write a fast-paced fiction thriller. So you got to throw in murder and kill people and do all that kind of fun stuff, you know.
Right.
But the essence of this book is scientists being killed. There's one scientist left that Max has to find, save his life, and he's the only one that knows the true story about what climate change is all about.
How much, now climate change, that subject alone, it seems awfully heady in like rocket science-y, literally, and I know you did a talk over at NASA with rocket scientists. How do you boil that down into something that's manageable and kind of titillating, if I can say that? How do you do that?
You weave the factual aspect, which is the climate science, in with the fictional, the plot. So when she's running through Italy with finally located the scientists, they have conversations. So I let my characters, I try to stay out of the fray. I typically let the characters debate and let the reader decide.
So you let your fictionalized characters make the arguments in the piece.
Exactly.
And that seems like you get a lot of work done that way with arguments pro and con.
Now what was really interesting is in Climate Ties, I decided to actually incorporate some real life characters with my fictional characters.
Oh, wow.
And so one of them was from NASA, a veteran of the Apollo space mission. Another was he was the director of the Hudson Institute, but now wrote a best-selling story called Unstoppable Global Warming, a New York Times bestseller. And after I wrote the book, Joe and I looked at the legality of whether I could do that.
Whether you could say it.
Whether I could actually, you can quote people in a book,
sure,
but to actually have them having conversations with my characters and actually having a role, I didn't know whether I could. So I found out I could if I didn't besmirch them or take them out of character.
So you're covered by the First Amendment. Thank God.
I am, but it didn't feel right. So
it didn't feel right?
To incorporate these people and not let them know.
Oh, not to let them know, but you let them know and you feel good about it, and they were.
So I contacted a former Apollo space mission scientist.
Wow.
Who is now the chairman of a group called the Right Climate Stuff Team, made up of scientists, engineers, and astronauts. And I asked him if he would read the book, and he did. I asked Dennis Avery, the man from the Hudson Institute. They both allotted it, thought it was a great way to get their message out to a wider audience.
Right.
And that's what led me to the presentation at NASA to the rocket scientists.
Was your end goal to keep the discussion open about that and to actually have a discussion without people saying, I hate when people say the case is closed.
Exactly.
I mean, is any case ever closed? I mean, people that say there's definitely not a God, how can you know that?
There's right on both sides.
There's right on both sides.
And so what you have to do is come to a consensus in terms of what you believe.
Sure.
So I want every reader to just close my book, say, what if, is it plausible, could it happen, and then go have a discussion with someone about it. And that's like my ultimate goal for every one of my books.
Do you know what I'm doing tomorrow? I'm doing no, not this one. See, that would have been smooth, right? But I picked the wrong book. But that's my second book. I'm going to read this book in 90 degrees heat, whether it's global warming or not. I'm going to be reading this book on the beach.
This will cool you off.
This will cool me off. At Casey Key, I'm doing an estate auction, but I'm going to be sitting there with a chair and looking at sunset.
Good.
And it's going to cool me down.
I want a photo of that.
You're going to come, and you're all invited. So I'm going to get into this tomorrow.
First. Good.
I want to go to a clip, and Mia, who works on this show, and I met Mia through the film festival and here at Mars Vision. She did a piece. You did a recent talk over at Barnes & Noble.
She did a fantastic job recording and editing. It's wonderful.
We have a little clip of that. I want to go to a little clip. Let's go to that clip, Mia, if we can, of Sally Fernandez at Barnes & Noble talking about...
What is all the buzz about? Well, Donna gave you a little bit of a hint that has to do with the Max Ford films.
which is going to be a motion picture film coming out in April 2020. And it will be adapted by the first book, Climatized. And there will be 3 films, and the next one will be adapted by The Beekeeper's Secret. And the third one will be adapted by the book that I come up with.
That's wonderful. You also have, and I think we have it, you have an event coming up in June, I believe?
In June at the Selby Library.
Selby Library, downtown Sarasota, the beautiful Selby Library. You're going to be doing a talk?
I'll be doing a talk.
Is it going to be about the beekeeper?
It will be a little bit about sort of the anatomy of how I became an author, and then a little bit of Climatized and what's happening with the movie, and then get into the beekeeper.
Did you say movie?
Movie. The magic word.
Do you think authors write books so that they make them into movies? I think everyone hopes that their words... I want to, before I get into that, The Beekeeper's Secret, how do we get from Max in Climatized and where to... And do you have to read them in order, or does it... Or they stand alone?
They stand alone. I mean, I would like the reader to read them in order, but I always try to write them in such a way that someone can just pick it up, enjoy the story. But if there might be a little backstory, there'll be a little information for them, so it's not repetitive for the reader who did read it. So it's kind of a little tricky.
What's The Beekeeper's Secret about, without giving away the whole secret?
Okay. Max again gets embroiled. A senator dies in the Amazon, and a beekeeper dies in New Mexico, and what's the connection? And then it ties into holistic doctors dying mysteriously. And then it gets into alternative medicine, challenging Big Pharma and the FDA. Wow.
So you're taking shots at little guys.
Yeah, exactly. I take little stories.
Right. So you're like the science, right? The Big Pharma.
Go after Al Gore, go after the government. I got them all.
By the way, how much research in doing that? You did a lot.
I do all the research. Daunting
research, though. You didn't just like wing this out of like your head. You went and you put your nose in the books and the science and how wrong. And this is kind of an unfair question, but I don't want to put. Inconvenient Truth was this first documentary. I know there's a number of errors, and some scientists have made some claims about how many errors are
in the 10 claims that our former president made, former vice president, in Inconvenient Truth.
Right.
In the Inconvenient Truth, there were 10 of them, and none of them came to fruition.
Right.
So he wrote Inconvenient Truth 2.
Yes, and I wrote inconvenience.
And I wrote Convenient Truth.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it challenges, what it does is it simply challenges some of the aspersions that are made, because what I learned from the scientists that I spoke with at NASA, that they use empirical data, things that can actually be measured, validated, and verified.
Right.
And what the other side they rely on climate models. And climate models can't take in all of the aspects of clouds and heat. And one of the most fascinating things is that they use the temperatures from the weather stations. Most of the weather stations are at the end of runways at airports.
Oh, wow. Oh, which are heated, I'd imagine.
Yeah, slightly.
Slightly heated. Oh, they didn't tell you that.
Well, but it's fascinating. And so I do all my research, but I triple check everything. I do YouTube videos because I want to hear that person actually saying, as opposed to somebody said it. So I really triple check all my facts.
Describe who Max Ford is. Why is she such a hero? Is she a patriot? She feels like she's a patriot seeking truth, justice, the American way, if you will.
She is all of those things, but she gets entangled in an organization that challenges that morality. She, in this word movie, she's being sort of fashioned after, in the spirit of a Jason Bourne.
Oh, Jason Bourne, cool.
So she has her vulnerabilities, but she's tough, and she's always going for right. And she's a very strong female character. So I've had fun developing her and bringing up some vulnerability. She's kind of a woman that you could sit down and talk with.
Yeah.
But she's got this amazing capacity for solving problems. And
she's got a lot of guts.
Lots.
Well, you know what? You brought up the movie. We're going to come back and talk about the movie. I want to talk about a movie, and I know you're a patriot. I know you're an American patriot. This is Memorial Day. I don't like Memorial Day to go away without. I want to pitch a movie that did not do any box office, and to me, it's a shame. Stephen Carell, Lawrence Fishburne, and Bryan Cranston. Last Flag Flying. Go see it. Matter of fact, rent it, Netflix it, put it on your phone. Put it on your phone while you're doing something. I don't care. Watch this movie because it really defines about loss and what these guys are, vets, no matter who they are. It did less than $1 million box office, Sally. I'm just shocked with that cast. But see, Last Flag Flying, second half of the show, we're going to come back and talk to Sally and Joe about writing, their relationship writing, and the movies. So let's go to Last Flag Flying.
You know what amazes me about you?
Well, it could be anything. I'm a pretty amazing guy.
You turn the keys to your bar over to the guy who's asleep on your pool table, and then you jump in your car and you drive me to hell and gone, and you don't even know where we're going.
Ask the question, am I willing to surrender to God?
What the hell happened to Mueller the Mauler? First-class drinker, gambler.
I see we have some visitors amongst us here today. We were in the service together with your pastor.
I haven't seen these men in decades. They represent a dark period in my life.
That went down awfully quick.
Drinking for two now that you got old and boring.
Shine down a light on me.
Because of my son, I came here, found you guys. A year ago, we joined the Corps, and then 2 days ago, they told me that he'd been killed. He's gonna be buried in Arlington, and I was wondering if you guys could come with me.
I've come to you in search of some.
They sent him off to a godforsaken desert. Why? I'm taking Larry home.
With all due respect, sir, he deserves to lie at Arlington.
You're gonna take Doc back to try to make it fun.
You're cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Did you look at these faces? They've already been spited.
I thought we were going to a funeral.
We are going to a funeral. Just looks like it's going to take a little longer to get there.
What you gonna do, strap the coffin to the roof of your car?
We could do that.
Oh man, look.
The thing that made Larry different from the rest of us, he had a happy childhood.
You said that?
Yes, sir.
If there's 1 minute that's not too terrible, I'd like to try to enjoy it. His Holiness can hardly walk, let alone handle a big rig with a hydraulic lift.
This is a rental with an automatic transmission.
You guys ready for an adventure? Let's go.
Oh man, take a look at my life. I'm a lot like you. I need.
What do you smell? Urine. I love it. It's like the official scent of the city.
Things that come into your head and out of your mouth.
You worry too much. That's why your hair went so gray.
Could you resist a man in this uniform?
I don't think I could.
You're there for your brothers. Yeah, that's all that really matters.
Get out of the way.
Okay, you want to play? Let's play.
Hey, move! Hey, you trying to get me killed? I will bury your ass.
Mueller has arrived!
Two books because these are the next two books I'm reading. I'm starting Tomorrow on the Beach, Casey Key, Sally Fernandez, Climatized, and the Beekeeper's Secret. I love both covers, and I am judging them by their cover. I know that the author's great, so I can do that. Joe has joined us. Joe Fernandez, nice to see you, Joe.
Oh, delighted to be here, Gus.
I got to see you a lot last month, I think it was last month. You had a number of parties. It was fabulous. It was really fun to hang out with you.
So long ago, I can barely remember.
No, it's great. You work with Sally. Of course, you guys have been married for a couple years, a few years. How long you guys been married?
31, but you got to count the 8 years I was with him before, so going on 40.
39 years, wow. Yeah. And when did you start working together? Like the process of like putting the words and you got the editor right there. That's kind of cool.
It happened when Sally handed me her rant, and I described it as a nucleus of the story if she got the bomb throwing out of it, and that's how Sally started to write and I started to edit.
No
so
kidding.
I embarked at my tender age, if I can't remember what.
80 about then.
80 something. To be an editor.
Joe, I don't believe your age. I mean, you're 39 to me. You could pass for 39, 49.
I'm kind of offended, Gus. I think I'm about 35.
That's good. That's good. So tell me about working on. So you've been editing with Sally since she started 10 years ago.
10 years
Sally?
ago. Mm-hmm.
So 2000.
Yeah, six novels, 10 years.
So 2007.
About 2000. Started in 2008, and it was published in 2000. My first book in 2011.
Because you were kind of aggravated what was going on in the media. You said in your channel, and he told you, gave you some great advice. You write all these tomes, you got these characters, and then the other part, every author, everybody wants their words transferred to this big screen or little screen or Netflix screen. You're in talks right now. Tell us about where that is and how that came to be.
Well, it was quite amazing. My publisher, David Dunham, and Joe and I just felt Climatize was really going to move. We had a lot of support from NASA. We had support from the Heartland Institute. It just was all coming together. And so David said, it's a long shot, but let me give it to my friend in Hollywood. So he gave it to Noam Dromi, who was the co-writer and producer on Dolphin Tale.
Right.
Out of Clearwater, $100 million box office.
Florida-based film, yes.
So they did it great. And he's done Blindside and several other major movies. So he read Climatize. He loved the Max Ford character. He loved the Climatize, the narrative. And so he gave it to his best friend, who is Evan Green, who is the chief marketing officer for the Grammys.
Well, there you go.
So,
That's high cotton.
I know. It's amazing. So the two of them collaborated. They wrote the script. It's an amazing script. And we're doing something a little different. We're kind of going out of the Hollywood model. We're not getting caught up in the big studios and the Hollywood accounting. So what they're doing is, and they've done this before successfully, is we will bring in the director. We're doing the investor money, bringing that in, bring the cast, produce the film, and then possibly sell it to a Netflix or an HBO.
Or Hulu or somebody. And
they're pitching it as a 3-film project. So the first one is adapted by Climatize, the second will be adapted by The Beekeeper, and the third will be adapted with whatever comes up in my head.
Do you have the third one in the
it's
wheelhouse?
It's kind of in my head. There's a couple.
It's there. It's developing.
It's there. I'm working on it.
So you mentioned a key word, and I tell people in my film classes and anyone who talks film, if you brought 100 of the greatest directors or writers, they would tell you the key to great film, the number one thing, it's the common thing, is the screenplay, it's the script.
Yep.
So when you tell me about character, how hard is that? I mean, this is your baby in the book now. How are you giving them your input? Are you trusting them? Tell me about that collaboration.
We're working as a team,
right?
Where we all agree or disagree. We've had several meetings. I am at the point that I write for the reader.
Sure.
They write for the moviegoer.
For visuals.
So they make it much more cinematic.
Sure.
You have to take 350 pages and make it a 90-minute film.
Yes.
They have done a fantastic job. They've
Yes.
maintained the narrative. Now, we will be putting together a writer's room. And we were in Hollywood a couple of weeks ago, and we've met a potential director who will be phenomenal. And he's very excited to be on the project. We have met another writer-producer who's phenomenal, who will put together the writer's room. So this is all new to us. We're learning.
Sure.
So they bring in phenomenal writers, and then one might be specializing comedy, might be in character development.
Punch it up in that way.
48 hours, they're in a room, they take the script, they tear it apart, and they come up with an amazing film.
Yeah, they script doctor it a little bit.
Yeah.
They
Exactly.
punch it up.
Exactly.
But I'm amazed.
So that's the stage we're kind of at now.
I'm amazed, though, and not surprised with you. You have to divorce yourself a little bit from the ego when you hand the script over.
Exactly.
When I say script, the manuscript to Joe, and he goes, what happens there? I know there's a negotiation of some kind.
He's my negotiator.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when we are working together, we keep emotion out of it.
Okay.
We're trying to be creative in a plausible way, dealing with a tender subject.
Sure.
When it came to the script, we were mentally prepared and emotionally prepared that changes would take place.
Right.
The important aspect of our first meeting was the openness of Noam and Evan in terms of changing the script. And Sally spoke up and said, "Wait a minute, you killed some of my characters. I think they should be back in." And we talked about it, and they logically reinserted the characters, brought them back to life.
So the lesson is, and I go through this in my filmmaking, when you really fight, you got to fight the battles you really want to fight for, and it's a collaborative medium. So that's good. You spoke up. You weren't going to let them take out certain aspects, the guts of it.
And they agreed with it. And I mean, these guys are amazing because they actually, you know, when I said that, they're like rewriting the script right in front of us. They know every word in the book.
Sure.
They know the characters. So it's about making Max Ford. They're franchising Max Ford.
Right.
You know, they're talking video games. They're talking. You know, they're going into the Indian, the Chinese, the Russian markets.
Right.
They're trying. The cast we've put together is more international to appeal to all aspects.
A diverse cast.
Very diverse, and it's hard to use Hollywood and integrity in the same word. But in this case, we're very fortunate. They believe that in the narrative, they want the narrative to stay true.
Right.
They're making Max bigger than life, but that's okay. My attitude is, I write a good book, I have the readers, they buy the book. They'll make a great movie, and they won't hurt the aspect if it's different, which it will be.
What do you hope people take away from the Max Ford character? What do you hope that she's a woman, so she's inspiring to?
I think the timing is perfect to have a very strong woman. I mean, you can see what Wonder Woman did, but she's going to be more real, down to earth. She's a strong woman. It's a strong message that she gives to women in general, but it's also just a strong message in terms of the issues that are at hand. So it opens up everybody's mind.
Fabulous.
And so she just takes on the world. There's a undermining current. There's the consortium, this deep state that runs through all the books. So.
Oh wow, that's so interesting and so timely today.
And so she's kind of against the.
Oh wow. So you have not started the third one yet.
No.
You're like a slacker. What are you doing? Joe, come on. Joe, what are you doing?
Did I mention that the tetralogy may become a TV series?
No, you did not, but thank you for doing that.
Be like a House of Cards, kind of replace a House of Cards.
And
that's
without
one of the,
House of Cards
without
guy. Yes,
Kevin.
That's one
Sorry,
of the
Kevin.
prospects. But you asked, what can I do to get her starting on the third book?
Right.
What I find is that once we publish the book, I'm eager to start the third book, but we have to market it.
Sure.
And so we spend some time marketing, and now, of course, we're diverted by going to Hollywood and making our claim to fame.
That's great.
And, but I get restless when...
I told him I'd take a year off. And about 4 months later, he said, maybe you should get started. And he calls it postpartum publication.
Postpartum publication. Guys, promise to come back as the process goes further.
Absolutely.
Because it is such a long... Where is it right now? Where is it sitting right now?
They're talking about the movie being out in April 2020.
2020.
And they'll be already starting The Beekeeper's Secret.
They'll be Climatized will be the first one.
Yes.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank
I
you,
really
guys.
enjoyed.
It's been great.
We're
fun.
going to go out with one of your clips. I want to make sure everybody likes and shares. I want to thank Action Realty of Sarasota, luxury real estate. I'm doing a 12-hour open house estate sale. I don't know. I got to be out of my mind. But guess what? I have 2 books to read. So if no one shows up, 3 books. I'll sell one. But I will read them because if no one comes, I have the time to read. Anyway, we'll see you guys at the movies. And the best Reuben. You guys like Reubens?
Love Reuben.
We're going to have a Reuben in
We're
golf.
New Yorkers. We love Reuben.
Yeah, of course.
Reuben at HH
at Reuben itself. Reuben used to be down in the street level where my first office was in New York.
Well, I'm going to take you for the best, Reuben, HH and DD. We'll see you guys at the movies. Good luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank you,
terrific.
Joe.
Thank you, Gus.
See you next week, guys.
Okay.
Thanks.
It is important to remember that we are the consumer, and those in the medical field are there to serve. The final takeaway is we do not rent our bodies, we own them for life. And you are what you eat. May sound like a cliche, but it could be a lifesaver. So, be smart, get your copy today and find out the secret. Thank you.